Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody's doing good. If you don't already know me, my name is Louise Cruz, and I am the Nutrition Education Coordinator for WellWorks. And today's presentation, we are going to talk about how to eat a plant-based diet and how to feed someone at home who follows a plant-based diet but still includes meat. So let's get started. So first, what is a plant-based diet? Well, just what it sounds like. A plant-based diet focuses mostly on plant foods and whole foods. You can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, and you can still be plant-based and include meat. So why do we want to move to a plant-based diet? Well, there's a lot of evidence that shows that consuming a plant-based diet reduces risk factors for many chronic diseases, including heart disease. It can even prevent them, and some studies show that it can reverse these chronic diseases. As far back as 1958, there was a study that they did using Seventh-day Adventists, and this study showed that the ones who ate a diet that was plant-based had lower mortality from heart disease. So that was pretty intense. So since then, there just has been tons and tons of studies all over the world, and they continue to produce this compelling evidence that vegetarian diets are not only nutritionally adequate, but that they are associated with lower risks of certain chronic disease when compared to that typical American diet. I'm sure you've heard of some of these doctors. They're pretty famous. McDougall, Ornish, Furman, Dr. Esselstyn. They've all written books where they document their success in reversing chronic disease with their patients by moving them to strict plant-based diets. If you haven't looked at any of these books, look at them. It's really just amazing what these doctors are able to do. In our area, we have Healthy Appalachia. There's a lifestyle medicine program in Marietta Health System, and they all teach this plant-based diet, and they have really good results with reducing cholesterol, reducing hypertension, and reducing weight. And the dietary guidelines, which are created just as a basic guideline for overall healthy Americans, those also recommend that 3/4 of your meal be plant-based, and they use something called the My Plate method. So the evidence for this type of diet is just overwhelming. So what kind of diets are we talking about? There's a lot of different variations. So vegan and vegetarian are really the basis of this. Vegan is the strictest. They eat nothing that contains any kind of animal product or byproduct. Vegetarians, there's 3 different kinds. Lacto includes dairy, ovo includes eggs, and lacto-ovo includes both. Pescatarian includes seafood. And then the newest area, which we're going to talk about today, is called flexitarian, also known as meat reducers. And this diet eats everything. So let's look a little bit at what the difference is between a vegetarian and a flexitarian. So for both these diets, they build their meals around vegetables, and the vegetables are the largest component of the meal. And then for the flexitarian, they use meat more as a condiment or an accompaniment. So what we're going to focus on today is how to eat like a flexitarian or meat reducer, it's easier to say, and how to feed both these diets at the same meal. So let's talk a little bit about what the staples are in your house. Well, if you're following a plant-based diet, then vegetables should be the biggest staple that you have. So this picture is just a great example of all the different variety there is out there. So really think about what you always keep in the house. So for me, I always have broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, peppers, zucchini. I always have a good bunch of stuff in the house. And it doesn't all have to be fresh. You can have canned vegetables. Just try to choose ones that are low sodium. If you can't find low sodium, that's okay too. Just dump it in a strainer and try to rinse it out as best you can. Frozen vegetables are great. They typically don't have anything added, and they're frozen, as you hear on the commercials, right at the peak of freshness. That truly is true. So they're just so easy to pull out. I like to prep all my stuff in advance, so it's easy to grab, and you can freeze it. So if I'm chopping an onion, I'll chop 2, and half of that will go in the freezer. Same thing with peppers. So the easier you make it, the easier it's going to be to use it. You should also have some kind of grains in your house. Most people have pasta or rice. Beans, make sure you have a good variety of beans. I always have canned beans in my house, any kind, they're in there in my pantry. And if you eat meat, or if someone in your family eats meat, then you're probably going to have a variety of that too. So maybe some chicken breast, maybe some ground beef, maybe some fish. So what do you do with all this stuff now? Well, how can you be plant-based and eat meat or feed everybody's tastes without making yourself crazy? It can be done. And we're going to do it by keeping it super simple. Okay, so let's look first at kind of the roadmap for this. So this is what the dietary guidelines recommend. This is their graphic from myplate.gov. And you can see that 3/4 of that plate is plant-based, because remember, grains are plant-based also. And then just 1/4 of that is the protein, which can be your meat. So what we're going to do now is look at some really easy recipes. I did not include amounts or measurements in these because they're really just ideas, just to get you thinking. All of these recipes I'm going to show you, you can customize to however you like. This is just kind of the basics of what I do. So chili. I started with chili because whenever I tell people that I make vegetarian chili, they always ask me for the recipe. And it kind of makes me think, like, isn't that funny that people don't realize that you can take regular chili that you make with meat and just not put the meat in it, and it's vegetarian chili. So that's why I've picked this one to start with. So when I make chili, I use peppers, onions, celery, carrots, garlic. I dice tomato, lots of different seasonings. I always use low sodium vegetable stock. I have tons of that in my house at all times too. Tomato sauce, whatever kind of bean you like, or a combination of beans. I always have cans of green chilies, throw that in. And then if you want to use ground beef, you can. And if you notice with this recipe, the bulk of it is vegetables and plant-based. And it's really easy. Just saute all those vegetables until they start to get soft. Add your garlic and your spices. Always good to add your spices at the beginning of your recipe instead of the end, because when you put them in at the beginning, it releases all that aroma and really develops the flavor. And then just add everything to the pot. Once that's a little soft, add all your liquid ingredients and just simmer it until it's done. And then if you want meat in it, or if somebody in your house wants meat in it, you can cook that separate in a different pan, put some onion in it, some chili seasoning, whatever you like, drain the fat. And then you have chili for everybody. So you can eat it with just the vegetables the way it is. You can add meat to your bowl if that's what you like. You can serve it over rice, and you didn't have to make a separate meal for anybody. Everybody's happy. Okay, tacos. Really easy to make for vegetarians and flexitarians alike. I prep all my vegetables. I have everything on the counter in little bowls so everybody can build it the way they like it. My staples are green onions. I dice tomatoes. I use typically either black beans or refried beans, but you can use whatever kind of bean you like. Again, green chilies, that's one of my staples. And then salsa, lettuce. You can have sour cream or cheese, whatever you like. Your tortillas or your taco shells, you can make them yourself. You can buy them from the store. And then ground beef, if that's what you like. And all you do is chop everything, prep it. You can cook the beef just like you cooked the beef of the chili, or you can use leftovers from what you made from the chili, and then just build the taco the way you like. I always start with the beans and build on top of that. Real easy. And again, everybody's happy. stir fry. This is my absolute go-to. I make stir fry at least twice a week. This is a great way when you open the fridge and you have all these vegetables and you don't know what to do, just throw them in a pan and stir fry them. So again, my staples are typically onion, broccoli, mushrooms. I always have Brussels sprouts, spinach. I like cherry tomatoes in a stir fry because it just adds a little brightness to the dish and some different flavor at the end. My veggie stock, which I always have, and diced cooked chicken or shrimp. Those are good things to add in if you do want that meat in there. And you do it the same way we did the other two recipes. Chop everything up, throw those vegetables in the pan, saute it with a little bit of that veggie stock, and that way you don't have to use the oils. When it's done, you just put that spinach in and cover it for a minute, just enough to let it wilt. If you want to have chicken or shrimp with it, you can either cook that in a separate pan or you can dump out the veggies and cook them in the same pan so you get a lot of that flavor that's left in the pan. And then serve it however you want. You can put it over whole grain rice. You can put it over quinoa, top it with the tomatoes at the end. And with this basic recipe, you can do all kinds of different things. So I like to make a sauce with like Dijon mustard and the veggie stock and cook it all in that. And then I serve it over pasta. You can sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese over it. It's amazing. Leave out the tomatoes and cook it with soy or teriyaki. And now you have an Asian dinner. It's super easy. And again, it will accommodate both types of diets. Vegetable soup. This is the classic when you don't know what to do and you've already done stir fry 2 times this week. Vegetable soup. You can throw anything in it and nobody's going to miss the meat. So this one you can keep true vegetarian. Put the beans in there so you've got some extra protein. I love putting cabbage in it. It adds a different kind of rich flavor to it. And whenever I make vegetable soup, I make it super brothy so I can pull some of that broth out and freeze it. And then I have it next time I want to make soup or want to saute some vegetables, I can use my own broth. Okay, what other meals can you make plant-based? Anything that you eat, you can make plant-based. So you want to have a spaghetti night? Go for it. Use a whole grain pasta. Have a tossed salad on the side. So that'll be your vegetable and add meat sauce or tomato sauce, whichever you like. I know in my house, they love meatloaf. That's okay. You can still do meatloaf. A 3-ounce portion is about that big. Have mashed potatoes with it. That's a vegetable. Have carrots, have green beans. And if you really don't want the meat, have a veggie burger instead. Sandwiches, you can do sandwiches. Pile them up with lettuce, tomato, onions. Put it on a whole grain bun. Put carrots and celery sticks on the side instead of potato chips, or have a side salad with it. And then this is my new favorite, is these cookie sheet meals. You put everything on the pan and put it in the oven. Now, honestly, in my house, it ends up 2 cookie sheets because I usually end up doing so much vegetables that I have a whole separate one. But it's easy. So you can put chicken breasts, dice up some sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, Brussels sprouts, carrots, just throw it all in. Another great one is you can make fajitas. Mushroom, onion, peppers, zucchini, chicken if you want, you don't have to. And same thing, you cook it just all on that cookie sheet and it's all done. And it's no mess to clean up either. So that's it, you're plant-based. These are some of the recipes that we talked about. Those are my staples. So your meals are now based on whole foods. Vegetables are making up 50 to 75% of your meals. They are very easily customizable for vegetarians or flexitarians. There was no fancy ingredients in any of these recipes, no tricky cooking techniques. We're not making roux, or we didn't make any black bean lentil burgers, which are delicious, but they're a little complicated to make. So anybody can do this, and everybody deserves this. those are the references I used for the presentation. This one was short and sweet. I hope you learned something. Thanks.